Okay, we've got our event handler complete here. But you know what? This actually doesn't have anything to do with our lights whatsoever. This is just doing interlocking for the buttons themselves. You know what? Honestly, it doesn't really belong here in our lighting preset event handler. Let's make this a function so we don't need to worry about it. And also, keep in mind, there's probably going to be other things that could potentially change these buttons, right? The buttons on this touch panel are not the only way that the lights can be changed. There's also a panel on the wall in the room that humans are going to walk into and press that. Later on in this course, we're going to get actual feedback from the actual lighting device to come back to our UCI, and we want these buttons to update based on the actual buttons that are pressed, or the actual presets that are recalled. So these buttons are not the only way to change the buttons, which means that we want to make a function out of this so that something else could also trigger these buttons to interlock the way we want them to. So let's just pull it out of here and turn this into a function. I'm simply going to grab a new function. This function's going to be called button interlock. And we know that in this instance, the button we want to turn on is based on the button control index that was pressed. But some other instance that might cause the buttons to be interlocked in different places will not have a control index coming in. So we need to provide an argument to allow something else to turn on the right information coming in. So we'll add an argument to our function. That argument will call the preset button, right? Which preset button we want to leave on when this is recalled. We're going to move the entirety of this into our function right there. And now we just need to update something because the control index is gone. The control index is still part of this original event handler. We need to pass that control index into the function along the way. So we're going to recall the function of button interlock. We're going to pass the control index in. And then here inside the function, we're actually referencing the argument instead, right? We're referencing the preset button. Same information, but now it's just passing through the function and showing up here. So let's fix up all of these. We are referencing the preset button rather than the control index for each of these. Referencing the preset button, that's the argument. It's still ultimately looking at the control index when it is the lighting preset button that has recalled this function. But now something else might choose to say, hey, I want button number 2 on. And it's going to recall this function, and it's going to shove the number 2 into this. And that way, the function will still operate properly by comparing if 2 equals 1, or if 2 equals 2. And it does, so it would turn on the second button. Make sense? Yes? I'm assuming yes. I'm assuming you shook your head yes up and down at home. If you didn't, then pause it, go back, watch that section again, and then do it over and over again until it makes sense. Hopefully it does. We've made our control index pass through the function as an argument to be used internally so that our script will be more nimble and more agile when we need it later on. All right. So next step here is we need to send some levels to the lighting device, right? We've got our buttons interlocking. We need to send something to that device. We have not yet built a TCP connection to the device. We're going to do that later, but we can still anticipate that we know we're going to do that. We know we're gonna. So let's create a function that will send something to the device later on. I'll create a new function. This function is going to be called, what's it going to do? It's going to send level to device. That's pretty descriptive for me. That's exactly what it's going to do. Both the fader and the preset buttons will recall this function, right? Because there's multiple things that might cause us to want to send a number to that device. Okay, what is it going to do? It's going to send a level, which means we need an argument to include in our function based on whoever recalls this function. So we're going to add an input right there, and we'll call this the level. That way, whenever we choose to launch this function, we can just feed the data we want, and it'll come in here. Now, like I said, we have not built a TCP connection yet, so we can't finish this function right now, But let's just debug print it instead so that we can see in our debug window what level would have been sent if we had finished it. So we'll just grab our debug from our system. Let's concatenate a string, and we will say simply the level is set to, I'll add a space between this, and then we'll have it reference whatever arguments has been passed in by the fader or the preset button that has been touched. So far, that's our send level to device function. We'll actually send something to the TCP connection just a little bit later on. For now, that's good enough. Okay, we're getting there. Now let's think about our faders and our preset buttons. The fader's actually really easy. Whenever the fader changes, we want to send its current value to the lighting controller, right? That's really straightforward. We can just go to our light fader, grab its event handler, and when it changes, we're literally just going to run that function we just built. And what's the level that we're going to send as an argument? The fader's current value. So go grab the light fader, grab its current value. That one's done. Piece of cake. Real easy. Okay, let's do the same thing with the buttons. When the buttons are pressed, we're going to, oh, this one's harder. These ones don't have a natural number to send. When button 1 is pressed, we're going to send one particular value. When button 2 is pressed, we're going to send some other particular value. When button 3 is pressed, we're going to send a third value. And button 4 is pressed, we got a fourth value. This sounds like an if-else statement, right? It sounds like, and I just said it, if this, then we send that. If this, then we send that. If this, then we send that. That's an if-else. We could do it that way. We certainly could. It would take us a little bit of time to build it out. We've done it before. There's a better way. There's a better way. We're going to do it the better way. This better way is a big one. Let's take a little pause before we do it the better way. I'll show you what the better way is. Go get a snack, grab a coffee. The better way is going to open up some brand new ideas for you, all right? Take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about arrays.